Welcome, welcome to our 10th year. Yes, this is Celebrate Orgullo and welcome to Unity in Diversity, the Women's Forum. I am Fay Tatiana and I will be your moderator today. And I am just over the moon excited about this panel of incredible women that will be hanging out together for the next 2 hours and just talking about the craziness that has been 2020. I saw a wonderful meme the other day that Lenny Kravitz was on holding a sign saying, men have been dealing with this country for far too long. It's time we give it over to the women. And I couldn't agree more. So it is time to introduce to you this incredible panel of women. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce first and foremost, we have the director of Spanish language media at GLAD. That is the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Let's welcome with big kisses and hugs to Monica Trasandes. How are you, beautiful?
I am great. Thank you so much. What a lovely welcome. So nice to see you.
Of course.
Nice to
Bienvenida, mi amor. Bienvenida, hermana. Next, we have actor and activist. I am presently obsessed with her IG and her lashes. I love her freaking lashes. The one, the only Jude Raven Romero. ¿Cómo estás, mi amor?
Hi, Faye. Hey, what? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Bienvenida. Bienvenida. And yes, I am obsessed with your IG, and I'll try my best not to stalk. Okay? So, all right.
No. Stalk away and encourage everybody else to stalk away too.
Definitely. I'll try to stay away. I'll try to stay at least 20 feet away. All right. Next is the reigning Miss Florida Seminole 2019 to 2021 from the Seminole Tribe of Florida. She's an activist and a trailblazer. I will tell you more about that later on. Dante Blais-Billie.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's so nice to be here with all you awesome people.
Oh my God, listen, when I read your last name, I was like, blasé. There is nothing blasé about this girl. I mean, she is just beautiful, phenomenal, statuesque, and just, and I want to wear that outfit. I don't know where I'm going to wear it to. I just did my DNA, and I just want to be a portion of whatever you are. I just want it. I want it. Pa que lo sepa. And we have some news. So how should I call you? Can I call you Dante? Is that okay?
Yeah, Dante's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Me hiciste la vida un poquito más fácil. You made my life just a little easier. All right. And finally, she's a public school teacher. She's an author. She's a phenomenal poet. She's a mom. She's a Latina. She's a lesbian. ¿Qué no hace esta tipa? For real. She is part of the Orgullo family. She's been with us in the past, and we simply adore her. The lovely Caridad Moro-Gronlier. How are you, Caridad?
Hello, ladies. It's so wonderful to be here with you. It's so wonderful to be here.
I'm so happy. I am so happy to be with each and every one of you. Thank you so much for saying yes to this forum, to this open forum. This is a safe space, and we want to make sure that other Latinas of color of all different shapes and sizes know that it's a safe place, and we've all gone through so much this year, but we're all in this together. So I thought it'd be wonderful. I've got a bunch of questions for you guys, but I thought it would be wonderful if we would start off the forum with you, Caridad. Would you just give us a big warm hug of your love with some of your poetry? Do you mind reading an excerpt or two?
I would love to, and I am really very happy to be here amongst you and to get a moment to share space with you. So I want to honor all of you and your time for being here and including me in this powerful circle. So I'm going to read a poem out of my book that's forthcoming, an anthology, Grabbed, and it is called At Least I Didn't Rape You. The wine we shared did it. You leaned in and offered me some killer advice because we both turned to look at the brunette who passed our table on the way to the bathroom. Since you're into chicks, you might as well think as if you had a dick. You have the power of preemptive strike. Just follow her into the john. Wait until she leaves the stall, then push her against the wall. Take what you want. Most guys won't admit it, but if we had our way, we'd knock you down, spread your legs, and plunge ourselves into what we want. I consoled myself with all that could have been worse than discovering you were the kind of man my father would have understood, the kind of man who considered a woman nothing more than split and cleft, orifice, cavity, study in absence, ma, avoid, worse than my childhood, litany of less than, papi hammered into my head, the worst of his words exhumed, corroborated by the pick and spade of your confession. Hija, a key that opens many locks is a master key. Don't be the slut with the busted deadbolt. I'd rather kill you than let you become a whore. At least I didn't rape you. Don't you know how lucky you are? Thank you. So that piece came from, the idea that if you grew up not having been abused, molested, touched, hurt, bullied, that you were lucky, right? Like the least we could expect in the world is that, And it wasn't until I grew older that I started to wonder, why such a low bar? Why was that the least I could expect? So I thought I'd open with that.
Wow, Caridad, I was expecting like puppies and rainbows and like something sweet and like a fur coat and like, how sweet. Instead I go, no, girl, pa, pa, pa. This is reality. This is what we're going through these days and have been for hundreds of years. Why do you think? I mean, look at RBG is gone, and I feel like we're taking steps backwards just in our conversation right now.
I don't know. I think it's kind of like you have 27 black dresses in your closet and you wear the same black dress, even though it's not the best dress and it's not the one that you like the best necessarily, but it's the most comfortable. So I think patriarchy and misogyny and all of the violent inclinations of our world that fuel this sort of violence are just so comfortable to the perpetrators, right? And in order to change that, before I can go put on another black dress, I got to look at myself in the mirror in that dress. Because when you have something you wear all the time, you're not looking in the mirror, you're just grabbing and going. And it isn't until you stop and you look in the mirror and you're like, oh damn, I gotta run in the back of that dress, girl. That dress gotta go. But I think that takes courage to look in that mirror. So until everybody has the courage to look in that mirror, we can expect change. We gotta name it before we can change it.
You're absolutely right. Monica, well, how do you think about that? Caridad, if you can mute yourself, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, what you just said, Caridad, in terms of we just get used to seeing the world a certain way. We're not conscious at all of how we're seeing it. That whole idea that you're looking through a certain lens, and you can be really sort of very awake and woke about a lot of things and be living your life in a way that it feels very, where you're really thinking things through and you've gotten you've succeeded in a lot of ways, what have you. And yet you'll discover like, oh my God, that part of my life, I've been living with this old script from a long time ago that's totally sexist. And I didn't even know it. I've had a few instances like that recently where I'm like, I didn't know it. I work at GLAAD. I'm in the progressive, and I've been doing certain things that I was like, why have I allowed that to happen? Or I've allowed things that, I didn't think I was allowing anything in my life that I didn't want there. But then you realize, no, I am. I inherited that somewhere, somehow. And I didn't even know it was there. And, it's true. Like, it just made me think of the idea that I think, Time Magazine was going to change it to Person of the Year instead of Man of the Year, right? And it was a big deal for some people to call it Person of the Year, and they made a big deal out of it. And I just thought, how many years when I was growing up did I not even notice that it was Man of the Year? Did I not even realize that we weren't included in that? It was Man of the Year, and I didn't even know that all my years growing up. And I thought, I better check that and try to find where that is in my internal script. Because I grew up in a culture where it was Time's Man of the Year, and I never really thought twice about it. And I don't mean, Time had other ways to honor women. I'm sure they had a Woman of the Year, whatever, but it was a big deal. The Man of the Year was the big deal, right? And so anyway, I think that's the point you're getting at, which I think is a really interesting point of checking where we're coming from and the layers that were thrust upon us and finding them and getting rid of them no matter where we are in our lives. It's a kind of like a work in progress. It's a constant that you have to do as a woman.
It's very hard to undo something that has been done to us for hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, why was it okay? Why has it always been okay to be a second class citizen? I read, so many different articles have come out since RBG's passing about just how far we've come and how many doors she opened. And one of the stories that I read recently was about a flight attendant that they used to have their uniforms just like they do now, but their shoes were a part of their uniform. So when their shoes would start hurting the front toes, the Pan Am or whoever it was would have an operation for them to take the bones out of the last two toes of their feet so they can wear those shoes that they wanted them to wear. These horrible heels that were awful for their feet. Men didn't have to do that. And it was okay. Nobody bitched about it. It was okay. What does that make you feel, June?
I'm often shocked, but not entirely surprised at the concessions we're willing to make to survive in this world, when survival and thriving have been so married together that we think they're the same concept. Because in a post-colonial world, in a post-capitalist and a post-industrialist world, those two concepts are indelibly married. And so we feel like no matter what conditions we were born into or under, right now we're talking about the condition of being a feminine entity in the world, right? We're willing to make a million concessions along that journey because we feel like it's propelling us to somewhere that we feel like all of us have to be. So we make those sacrifices. But it's like you all said, in retrospect, or when we finally look at that dress in the mirror, is it ultimately right? Is it just? Is it morally and basely correct? No. Because only recently, right, has humanity started to really entertain the idea of egalitarianism. And I think that's what we're living through now, I think human beings are animals. And I think, unfortunately, animals have an animalistic side. And part of that side is survival. And we are now seeing what it looks like when we evolve from pure, sheer survival, in which masculine-oriented people essentially we existed with their foot on our necks, proverbially, right, for a long time. And now we're seeing this evolution of what power looks like and how effective power can be in its many forms, right? And I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a testament to that concept.
Yes, ma'am. And that black dress, who are we wearing that dress for? Are we even wearing that dress for us? Like, so many different things that black dress represents, Caridad. You threw me for a loop. Miss Dante, what are you thinking?
I think I definitely agree with everything everyone's been saying. As June was saying, those concessions, I think from an Indigenous perspective, it's important to recognize and try to unmap the things in our day-to-day lives that continue and extend those kinds of violences. Because Indigenous people, we have to remember that this heteropatriarchy is just a speck in our history. We have thousands and thousands of years before on Turtle Island here, where women were matriarchs, where women were respected. And not only that, but not just women, gender relations were completely different. Two-spirit people were accepted. There was the violences we face today are unparalleled to anything before contact. So it's just reminding ourselves that what's happening now didn't always exist and that we were surviving and thriving before for thousands of years without those things. So we have to unmap what is making us take those concessions today and who's putting that in place for us as Indigenous people.
Wow. Ms. Dante, would you be so kind as to elaborate more on the two-spirit? I am so blown away by that concept. I mean, wow, please.
So two-spirit is a contemporary English term that's meant to be an umbrella term. So it's covering different Indigenous understandings of diverse genders, sexualities, and most importantly, spiritualities. It's a contemporary English term because the other English terms that were coming from West, even diverse ideas like non-binary or homosexual or gay or lesbian, they didn't truly encompass Indigenous understandings of spirituality, and especially spirituality relating to gender and our relation with each other in our societies. So two-spirit is really just a placeholder for an individual Indigenous person to identify themselves through their community's perspectives of what their gender is, their sexuality is, their spirituality is. So it's all encompassing of traditions that have been in place of gender diversity, spiritual diversity, and sexual diversity for thousands of years. And for some nation, that means really specific social rules like medicine persons or even caregivers for children, or people who oversaw funeral rites that were of a gender binary away from what we now know in colonial heteropatriarchy. And for other tribes, two-spirit can refer to, even if there's not a specific tradition or language in place for a third, fourth, or fifth gender, it refers to the indigenous understandings in those communities that people breaking away from the binary aren't in a dichotomy of evil or good or sinful or bad. In a lot of our nations, we accepted people for who they were. Specifically in my nation, these violences of transphobia, misogyny, and homophobia, those are really, really new things to our history. You speak to our elders and they say, we feel like we're in a foreign country when we see people being ostracized for those kinds of things, because they just don't exist in our values and understandings. So two-spirit is a placeholder for Indigenous people to describe themselves in a way that connects to their community's perspectives and their community's traditions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for elaborating on that, Ms. Dante. So ladies and everybody watching on all our social media outlets, YouTube and our Facebook page as well, it's been quite a year. Pandemic, social injustice, politics, everything can just be too much, overwhelming. And, throughout all of this, we've had to maintain our sanity and keep trucking on like adaptable women have done for centuries, and this is a safe space for women of all colors, shapes, and sizes. And our goal is just to inform, educate, and let at least one woman know that we will all get through this as long as we stick together. So a couple questions for you guys. And I think that I will start with Miss Monica. How has your professional and personal life been affected in 2020?
Oh, how many hours do we have? I mean, my professional life has been, thank God, GLAD is really fantastic. And our team, our leadership, everybody there has been so thoughtful in terms of how we work, how we do our jobs, for supporting us. And we can do our jobs from home. A lot of us can, because a lot of the trainings we do with media, with individuals, with writers and producers and people, we can do it online. So my team is pretty lucky. And again, people just have been really thoughtful, and it's always about our health first and our comfort and everything. And yeah, I work with great people. So that's been good, in that sense. Personally, I mean, so many ways, right? Thankfully, I don't have anyone close to me who's been ill. But how do you, knowing that so many people are, and so many people are hurting. They're hurting physically, that they're hurting. You see so many, more homeless people everywhere, because they've been lost their jobs, lost their homes. And you can't do much about it. You're stuck at home. So the frustration of that, of course, has been tough. I have a child, I have a 7-year-old, beautiful little daughter. Parenting her has always been beautiful and tough. But now being a teacher too, trying to help teach, because you have to be there when they're doing their classes, has been tough, really tough. And then, so finding the time to do that, it's been challenging, but I feel bad complaining, because, I have some resources that a lot of people don't have. We have some people who can help us babysit a little here or there, or she can be in a pod with some other kids, so she's not so lonely. And our neighbor has a pool that he lets us use. So I'll be totally honest, without that pool, I would be climbing the wall right now more than I am. So I'm always calling him, hey, Bob, can we use your pool every evening? Thank God he always says yes. But I could go on and on, but I will let others share.
That's a great neighbor, Monica, and I'm coming over because I need to jump into. June, same question. What's going on with your world professionally and personally in 2020?
I'm gonna go with personally first. Okay, I'm a little weird. In that I feel like I thrive in high stakes situations, and I feel like pressure is where I adapt best and I feel best. So in some ways, like my Instagram handle, I feel is very apt. It's June of Arc, because in a lot of ways, when I was a kid, I felt like I was forged from the fire, because it wasn't easy. I mean, my life has been wonderful and the transition has been wonderful. But the truth is, the psychological trauma of growing up a transgender femme individual in a society that's so heavily chauvinistic and centered around patriarchal values, it was difficult. And so I feel like I'm always in crisis mode. I felt like I was always in crisis mode. So now I feel kind of weirdly at home. I have been waiting patiently and ardently by for years, I'll be honest with you, for something to give like this. And although I am well aware of the cost it comes with, I don't think anybody would disagree that as a species, we needed this moment to pause and reflect. I look forward to whatever comes after this point. Professionally, my industry has all but been decimated. You know, the live performing arts sector is all but wiped out right now. The truth is, a lot of people are reeling from the losses, and the industry will not be the same for at least the next 3 to 5 years. But switch gears, we adapt. I'm looking at different avenues of expression. I'm looking at film and digital media, and I've also started a blog and a vlog and an interview series of my own on YouTube called The Transcript. Because I felt like it was the right thing to do. I've thought about it for years now, 3 years, and I felt like this was the moment to start it. So I am doing just fine. I am concerned about how the world is going to be doing soon.
Adapting, right? Adapting. And it's transcribed. Is that what was the YouTube?
The Transcript. It's called
The Transcript. All right. We'll definitely have to subscribe to that for sure. Adaptable. We have to adapt. We don't really have another choice. What do we do? I mean, Caridad, talk to me. You're muted still. I'm sorry, honey. Caridad, you're muted. Don't you wish they had a mute button at the debate the other day?
Oh my
right?
God.
I was gonna think sometimes I could use a mute button in life. So like this would be really useful for me every once in a while, namely faculty meetings, but I'm not even gonna go there. So as a teacher, I was saying I'm gonna piggyback off what June said, because I found myself in a difficult situation in that I was working from home, but I don't mind being home. I find that sometimes the world is a scary place, and over the last 4 years, I find that more and more to be so. So my circle has gotten a little bit tighter, much more dear, but tighter. So when this all went down, I realized I had a lot of awarenesses. Like, I don't miss the restaurant. I miss the table and the gathering and my friends and breaking bread. I miss laughter over a drink. I don't miss the bar. So that reflection that you were mentioning, June, is something that I took very much to heart. Plus, I had a 17-year-old about to graduate from high school who all of a sudden got a pause in that independence train, but I got a little extra time with him in the nest, right? So in that sense, I've been able to find the bright spots in a dark moment. But I have had to deal with students who just don't have the resources that we expect they should have. A lot of loneliness, I believe, is a word that Monica used, and that's such a bright word. There's been a lot of loneliness. I saw it, especially through the screen. We think sometimes that we're connecting, but that's not necessarily so. The screen is a screen. Professionally, it's been actually kind of a boon. I mean, what kind of writer want more than solitude and, grocery delivery? So that's been great. I've got a lot of writing done, a lot of introspection, but I'm eager to see too, some forward motion, But really, overall, I've been vastly very fortunate.
Well, and that's the beauty about being women. I think that we try to strive to find a positive, to at least see the cup as half full, which is why many of us, unfortunately, stay in domestic violence issues, because we always remember the good times. We always try to find the positive in anything, even in negative moments. I love that you're able to spend some time with your 17-year-old. No 17-year-old wants to hang out with his mom, and now all of a sudden you're forced to. We're gonna make TikTok videos together, and you're gonna be embarrassed by everybody.
and the funny thing is, it's like when we first went on lockdown, I'd go outside and sit, and the weather was still good, and I realized all the different birds that come to my yard, because when life quiets, you start to notice the things that you overlook along the day. So we realized that 2 birds had fallen out of the nest, so we were able to repatriate them to their nest in the tree. And then that became to me like this metaphor for him, right? Because he helped me save those birds. But we put them back in the nest for a little while before they were able to fly away. And that's kind of like him. He's in the nest for a little while longer. But I'm blessed for that moment, and I'll always remember that. 2020
Yes,
sucked, but I got a little extra time with the kid.
And that's a beautiful thing. Miss Dante, how crazy has stuff been for your tribe, for you not being able to enjoy the crown as much? I mean, half the year is already gone.
Yeah, it's been really wild for my professional side. I think the most significant thing that's happened really across Indian country with most of the royalty is that they're extending our reigns for a year because it just wasn't a safe environment to even have a pageant for another girl to run. So a lot of us are extending our reigns, but that isn't to say that, it's been a really hard time for Indian country as with the rest of the world, but we've been hit quite hard. It just happened to correlate with a lot of people's ceremonies in our nation, specifically in my nation. Our ceremony, Green Corn Dance, it's been hard, especially our elders. Our matriarchs at the Green Corn Dance, they're the ones that we're celebrating. They're the ones that are leading us. They're the ones that are nurturing our culture, our people, teaching us everything. And it's just unfortunate that there was such a risk for something that's such a high reward as much as ceremony. And that's not just within my people. I see across Indian country on social media, tribes unfortunately not being able to go to ceremony or, really spend the time with the elders that they've been wanting to spend. And I think even it boils down to our day-to-day lives because a lot of our teaching is in person, whether it be through language or through cultural crafts or even just storytelling. Being in person with those things is really, really paramount. Our elders say that if things happen, if they're recorded, and if they're not given in person, they lose power. So it's just been really difficult to try to deal with that. But professionally, even though all of my in-person events have mostly been canceled, it's been a really, really huge jumping point to be creative and more bold with my platform. I started with a collective of Seminole and a Miccosukee member, Houston Cypress, who's my mentor. We started Two-Spirit Tuesdays, which is the first official acknowledgement my tribe has ever made of Two-Spirit people, let alone LGBTQ plus natives in our community. So that's been a really, really big opportunity and growth for not just me, but for my community and for the collaboration of other tribal members, because it's something that no one has ever officially addressed before. Like I said, while gender diversity and sexual diversity were never shunned in our communities, recently they've never been affirmed or embraced in any official sense. So it's just something that's really important. And it's like a blessing that I've been given this platform and this weird time for me to be bold enough to do so and really run with it. And personally, I think it's really hard to not spend time with my elders and to know that the elders in my tribe, they're all feel very responsible for the things the duties that they carry on. So it's really hard to see that the learning and the nurturing just can't happen as it should, but it's crazy times. I think also across Indian country, just this past year is another example of Black-led organizations, Black-led collectives, and Black-led community movements paving the way for other marginalized groups historically. It's something that you look back to the 70s, the 60s, it's something that Natives have always been thankful to Black communities for. And now more than ever, it's time to reflect on anti-Blackness and Indigenous communities. And I think that's something I'm so thankful for, that it's getting so much press coverage and media coverage, and that it's really breaking through to even Natives in my own community who weren't aware of, the steps we all need to take.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Am I the only one who misses hugs? I miss hugs so much, and I wasn't even a big hugger. Who would have thunk, What would you tell yourself in December to prepare yourself for 2020? What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time to December 2019 and prepare yourself for this, I'm not going to say the bad word, interesting year that we've had? How would you prepare yourself for that? Miss Monica, we'll start with you again. Not go buy a bunch of toilet paper, okay? I get that.
No, we're good with the toilet paper. We're one of the few people around us who are fine with the toilet paper. Gosh. Wow, I don't know. That's a really good question. I could come up with things that are kind of silly, like, buy another yoga mat or build a pool, try to build a pool. or move to an apartment building with a pool or something like that. In case Bob stops saying yes. Gosh, or I don't know how I would prepare myself. I mean, I think, be with family more. Although I've been fortunate that I have been able to bring my family here. My parents are with me right now. Actually, yeah, I would have gone to Uruguay, actually, where I'm from. I was born in Uruguay, and I haven't been there in a long time. So if I knew in December, I might have flown to Uruguay for a few weeks, and spent some time there because I really want to take my daughter there. But overall, I think this time has been a test of, can you calm yourself? Can you find your calm place? Can you try to somehow be calm and in the midst of all this? And so I think the things I've done in my life in the past have served me pretty well on that end. But I think I would have maybe traveled, and which tells me what I should do after, when things become a little bit more normal, whenever that is. Travel more, go to Uruguay right away. And I'm sure we all have a list of the things we're going to do right away, right? Like, you're going to hug, right? I'm going to hug some people for sure. But I am going to travel more probably, because you just never know what will change and what you'll be able to do. What you assumed you'd be able to do next year and next year and next year. And that's probably something we should have all had in mind anyway, because you never know what can happen in life. You can be perfectly healthy and then something happens and suddenly your options are very changed. So yeah.
Travel for sure. Once we're allowed to go anywhere, right? Nobody wants any piece of any American right now. So,
Uruguay won't let us in. They're like, I don't care. You were born here. You're not coming in.
I don't care if you're cute, Miss Monica. No, you can't come in here. I'm sorry. Miss Dante, what would you tell yourself in December to prepare yourself for this year?
I suppose short term, it would be installing remote access to my grandmother's computer. She's returned to school, and that means she has to do online courses now. And even before, technology was a really big learning curve for her, and that was something I was going over daily to try to help her with, to do homework assignments. And now it's just been, it's frustrating for me, for her to feel so frustrated, especially when it's something that we're all really proud of for her going back to school. So that would be the short-term thing that I would recommend myself doing, is get remote access to her computer as soon as possible so I can help her download things, join her seminar classes and those sorts of things. But I think long-term, definitely traveling. I went to school abroad, so a lot of my friends are abroad, and it's been really difficult not being able to see them at all. We all made plans for spring, we all made plans for summer, and it's just really, really sad because they're the people that are closest to me besides my family, but they all live so far, and I don't know when I'll ever be able to go to the UK or go to Saudi or go to Hong Kong to see them. So it's just really difficult, yeah.
All through Zoom right now, Dante. We got to send that love through Zoom. We got to send that love through our computer screens right now. We learned how to. We don't really have a choice, and hopefully that'll all change soon. Miss Caridad, what would you tell yourself, Mama? You're muted. I would tell myself to stop muting myself.
I was in Vegas in December, so I was changing a lot of things. But I should have bought some Zoom stock in the short term. That's what I should have done.
Yeah.
But seriously, I do travel a lot. Was going to take the kid to Ireland and for graduation. That went bye-bye. But I think, now that I'm in this philosophical place, I think that I would tell myself to stop looking forward so much. I always joke, when I get back from my last vacation, I'm already planning for the next one because that's the reason I have to get up. So I kind of reframed that. There are a lot more reasons. And so, again, distilling it down to the important things, right? It wasn't so much about the trip, it was about the kid. So as much as I would like to travel, I think if I could go back, I would really take time to be in the moment and spend time. Like, for example, my grandmother, who's 95 and who I haven't hugged and who I want to hug, because I may not get a chance to hug her tomorrow. So those are the things that kind of haunt me. Yeah. The moments missed, even when I was there, when I wasn't fully present. So Going forward, I look forward to being present, and whenever I get to be with my crazy friends and family, and on that next trip that we take.
I feel you. If anything, this year we really learned who our true friends are. and who really was looking out for you all along. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but people came out of the woodwork that I hadn't heard from in forever. Miami became the epicenter of COVID. So all of a sudden it's like, are you dead? Okay, if I'm picking up the phone, then I'm not dead. Okay. So it's been definitely quite a year. Discuss one way that you guys are all creating change for your community for the end of this year, for the next. What are your plans now that has come out from what you've been through in this year? What changes are you now going to put into effect, Miss June?
Oh, hold on. I want to answer the last one because I had a good joke about it.
Please. Oh, of course you have a joke about it. Go, get me.
I mean, look, because true life is always the funniest, right? So I would say, June, girl. I would say, girl, I would go back to March 13th, Friday, March 13th of this year was the last day that, it was the day we shut down the last live performance production I was in called Miami Motel Stories. It was it was a immersive theater piece. And I would say, June, I know that salsa instructor who just came on the cast looks really cute and mysterious. And I know you've been looking for a salt and pepper papi to spend some time with. But girl, do not hook up with that dude because it'll be the last hookup you have for 7 months. And that dude in 3 months' time is about to start posting anti-mask stuff and Trump stuff on his Facebook. So June, don't. Because I've been living with that for months. Okay?
June, girl, June, don't.
I just wanted to get it off my chest. I just wanted to get it off my chest.
The last thing I did before I went on lockdown was go to the Miami Motel Stories, girl. So that was my last outing with my wife. We went, and then after we went to eat, and I was looking at the guy who was making my food, I was thinking, I don't know, this doesn't look very good because we had just started hearing about the thing. So your performance, I knew I was looking at you, and I'm like, esa cara. I was there.
Oh, thank you.
So I think the universe kind of brings us together, and that's a touch point for us, girl.
There are no coincidences, and you definitely left just a thought with Caridad. She was like, look, she's like, I know that face. I've seen that face. That was one of the last people I saw in public. I think everybody remembers like when the last time they were out in public somewhere.
Crazy.
That's right.
Normal or whatever.
And can I answer the next question?
Please.
Okay, what am I doing for my community? I'm doing what I know how to do. That's all I can say about that. When I was growing up, I defaulted to the profession that I thought would put me at the position to be listened to the most and the position to hold the microphone. And so naturally I stumbled into acting, and I thought this is a great avenue. But I have to say, upon further analysis of who I am, that was just a conduit for what I wanted to do. And now that I'm thinking about what I truly want to do, it's probably more along the lines of the last project that I've started up, the transcript. And in essence, I've had this thought about the transcript for years. I know it's a clever name, and the mission behind it, in my opinion, and my intent, is to place a transgender Latina in a position of authority, of analysis, of revision, of harboring information. I don't think growing up I ever saw anybody like myself unless it was on Jerry Springer or unless they were the butt of a joke in a really badly written play. And
why not be Olivia Pope in Scandal? You totally could be it. I see it.
And I thought to myself, well, the change makers and the pacemakers take what they want, right, June? And to whatever privileges I have been extended, and to whatever extent I can grab what I want, that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to grab what I want. And I feel like we have been conditioned as women and femme-identified people for so long to take a back seat and to sit idly by and quietly by, offering our analysis only silently and mutteringly and sputteringly. And the truth is, look at it. Look at the worlds we are. The people at the helm of our world right now are largely clueless relative to the rest of us. And my thing is like, my God, if I have a daughter or a femme-identified person or a transgender individual who's femme growing up, and I have a kid who's that one of those identities, I will never, ever, ever allow that to happen. Really, I will never allow that thought to seep into their heads that they can't speak as loudly, as fervently, or as confidently on something as somebody else can. And so that's what I'm doing now.
And you keep on doing it, honey. And the YouTube videos, YouTube channels are making a lot of money right now. And you've got all the information, you've got the looks, you can totally do it. So keep doing what makes you thrive. Your representation is, it takes cojines to, get out there and say, okay, this is who I am.
I still
I'm
have
going to represent.
So,
Miss Monica, tell me what have you gone inside and found something to help you in your career and do something for our community in the coming months?
The first thing that comes to mind, because it's so important and it's like everything we do every day. I know a lot of us, but I'm going to do this until November 3rd and then afterward too. But, empowering people to feel that they have a voice, to know that they have a voice in this country, Latinx people specifically, right? Because I know that there's been, real effort for the last few years to make certain people feel less than, and as if they don't belong in this country, as if they're second-class citizens, and I think it's worked, unfortunately, on a lot of people. I think a lot of people are very demoralized, and they just feel like nothing will ever change. It is what it is, to quote someone else, and that's very sad. And so I right now, as part of GLAAD, we're all working to get out the vote, right? Everybody, no matter what party, whatever, you need to vote, right? And for me specifically, Latinas and Latinos, Latinx people, we're working a lot to raise up the campaigns that are happening to train people. I'm doing a media training tomorrow for Voto Latino. Please join if you can. You just go to Voto Latino and you can join. You can sign up and be part of the media training to teach people how to tell their stories. That's what I do always at GLAAD, but now all of GLAAD is working really hard, all of us, to get people telling their stories in the media, because a lot of times people don't know who we are as Latinx people, as LGBTQ people. All they've seen is stereotypes, and over again, stereotypes about LGBTQ people, the butt of the joke, the best friend, not the main character in films and TV, as if we're less than, as if we're not important. Same thing for Latinx people. You go to a movie or TV show, apart from a few, including One Day at a Time, which starts again October 5th, which is awesome on CBS, and Vida, and a few other amazing ones, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I feel bad not listing all this. So there are some amazing shows with Latinx people in just regular roles, right? Not stereotypical Superstore, but there are so many. So we're excluded from so much. We go to films, and yet we're a huge part of the film watching community, and yet we're a tiny part of the actual characters in films. Latinx people, same with LGBTQ people and characters. We're not represented at all. Really, it's getting better, and that's what GLAAD does, but we're not represented in Spanish language media, which is where I work too, and in novelas and series. That all needs to change. So I'll continue. We'll all do it. Glad I'll do a lot of get out the vote work to get people feeling connected to our political system, so they don't feel so demoralized they don't vote. And then after that, too, continuing to make sure that people tell their stories, and that we, are in media and everywhere else in this country, in politics and everything else, because it is our country.
Well, thank you so much for all you do. GLAAD has been helping our community for so long, and I can't imagine where we would be without you guys. And there's still so much more to do. You guys have so much work to do. I'm sorry.
We all have so much work to do. We all do. And I'll do a little quick call to action too, please. If you see something good or bad on Spanish language TV or English language TV, let me know. m.trasandes@glaad.org. My name, Trasandes, at GLAAD.org. Let me know when you see good things and bad things, because we need to push all media, English language, Spanish language, to do better and to include us and tell our stories.
There's so many of us. We should be represented in everything that we watch somewhere. We're not just the gay Ellen next door. That's not just who we are. Miss Dante, you're next, my beautiful.
Myself? Yeah, I think the big thing for me that I'm doing for my community is, like I said, two-spirit acknowledgement. It's something that was truly, truly lacking in any official sense. Even just spreading the message to not just my community, but tribal communities, that two-spirit affirmation and Two-Spirit health is about the health of our communities. You know, it's about trying to make people understand that Two-Spirit traditions and Two-Spirit knowledge reflects the entire tribal community, and that healing of bringing our Two-Spirit individuals back into, you know, having voices and being accepted in our communities is healing the circle that our ancestors have placed us in. You know, they recognize the value of Two-Spirit people, and they set our societies that way for a reason, but that's just been disrupted by colonialism. So it's just, I'm really trying to make people see that Two-Spirit affirmation affects everybody in our tribal communities, and that at this point, at the violences that Two-Spirit people face, it's a health intervention. You know, our youth are at really, really high risk if they're Two-Spirit or LGBTQ plus for so many things. And most likely, like, suicide is a really, really big thing that's rampant across Indian country for young queer Indigenous people. So just recognizing that this healing is really a community goal and that it's a necessary health intervention is something that I've been really, really dedicated to. I've been doing that through education through the Two-Spirit Tuesday project and also through calls to action. And something I'm working on right now with my committee is a Two-Spirit rights assessment within my own tribe. And I really encourage people to do that themselves in their own tribal communities, a Two-Spirit rights assessment or just a queer Indigenous rights assessment, because you don't know what kind of policies are actually in our tribal jurisdictions. You know, a lot of our schools, even run by our own tribes, not just the Bureau of Indian Education, they lack anti-discriminatory policies. And even under tribal jurisdiction laws of child custody and marriage, you know, it's not making the room that's needed for Two-Spirit bodies and Two-Spirit souls and Two-Spirit people. So there's just so much work to be done. And that's really what I've been dedicating myself to, is making that change to tell people what Two-Spirit is, why it's important to our whole community, and calls to action of how they can recognize policies that will make a difference and know that it's a health intervention that we all need.
Thank you, Ms. Dante. ¿Y tú, Ms. Caridad? She just loves to talk to me muted.
I can't.
Girl.
And she says it with such passion. Whatever she's telling me, Fay, I love you. I just think that we should meet outside of here. That's all I'm saying. Right?
I do. Be patient. What I was saying, I always bring the passion, girl, even if I gotta repeat it, so don't you worry. My greatest outreach and advocacy is through the classroom and my ability to work with kids. I believe that June alluded to just the staggering ignorance that we're contending with in our society. And it is my mission. They don't have to think what I think, but they got to think. And we get to that through talking. We get through that through, I think literature is a great way to instill empathy. And we are so sorely lacking in that in our society. So that's how I make a difference. I'm a GSA sponsor. I listen to kids. I hold their hands, even if it's through the screen, when their parents don't want them, when the world doesn't want them, when they don't want themselves. And I am perhaps proudest of that work, because that will be my legacy. And even in the pandemic now, believe it or not, I've been able to achieve these connections with kids just through email, where they're just writing to me because I'm listening. So I continue that fight. It's been my fight for the past 30 years. And I believe I will continue to educate in every way possible, through my writing in the classroom. If I stop you on the street, if I talk to you, which my wife hates, but I do all the time. So that's my mission. That's why I'm here.
Well, let me tell you, ladies, all of you inspire me greatly. And it's kind of like, well, after this little break, I'm going to ask you guys about what you thought about the debate. But, you know, just speaking to you puts me in a roller coaster ride, where it's like, wow, I'm so excited by these dynamic women that are doing so much and are still out there and want to reinvent whatever they did last year and continue to help our community. And then in that same breath, I'm like, man, we've got so much work to do. You know, we've got so much work to do. And this gentleman in that's our president right now can just take us steps back if we don't keep fighting. So anyway, so this is the kickoff to celebrate Orgullo. This is our 10th year, and this is Miami's Hispanic and Indigenous Pride Festival, and it celebrates its 10th year. And it starts today with this incredible forum with these beautiful, beautiful women, and it goes till the 14th. And it's going to bring you 14 days of art, dance, music, talent, spoken word, y sazón. Yes, yes, yes. And on the 14th is our closing night. We've got this wonderful drive-in movie that is called Two Eyes. It's an indigenous movie. The trailer is phenomenal, and I want to share it with you guys now.
Why's that not our address? Great Spirit creates people in many ways. Some are born girls, some are born boys, some are bede. Special, like Pope with that. Both man and woman. That's quite confusing. No, it's not. Why's that not?
So good that we wanted to show it to you twice. So that is our closing night movie. It is October 14th. You can go to celebrateorgullo.com to get your tickets. Also, at that event, we will be presenting the one, the only, the beautiful trailblazer herself, Dante Blais-Billie, with the Trailblazer Award that she so deserves. And I can't wait to present her on that day. So make sure that you guys get your tickets. Another fantastic thing is that all the money that we raise for this 14-day event, all of it is benefiting the Micro Giving Fund, which basically helps LGBT folks that have struggled through these past 6, 7, 8 months. Bartenders, drag queens, servers. If you are in the industry and you lost your job because of COVID, this money is going to go and help you. And that is definitely a need out there. So get your tickets today. It's going to be fantabulous. All right, so we're back with the girls, or I can keep on looking at Dante's face with that beautiful crown. Dante, how many crowns you got? No, tell me, just for real.
Just the two, I swear.
Do you wear it at night? Like, do you just run around the house in your pajamas with your, no? Is that not allowed? Is that disrespectful? I'm sorry if it is. Because I would. I would have it out in the shower. Like, I would just, I would open the door to the Amazon guy and be like, yes, yes.
Yeah, the regalia I'm wearing in that picture is for Southern cloth dancing, which is a type of intertribal powwow dance. Yeah, so that's why my beadwork's a little bit different there, and my hair is braided back when I had hair. But yeah, it's a little bit of a different regalia than the traditional Seminole clothing I'm wearing now. But still, I love beadwork, so I'll always wear it any chance I get.
I think it's beautiful. I would still wear a faja underneath just because I'm crazy and I wear a faja underneath everything, but that's just me. All right, so let's get back to the question. So, ladies, a study came out, I believe it came out last week, that parents are less accepting of their LGBTQ youth coming out now, less accepting than they were 20 years ago. Why do you think that is? Miss Monica, we'll start with you. So a study came out last week that parents are less understanding and less welcoming of their LGBTQ youth that are coming out than they were 20 years ago. Why do you think that is?
That's interesting. I don't know that study. Do you know where it's from, or?
I'll look it up.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very sad to hear. I know that overall, I feel like acceptance has gone up in terms of specific questions. When specific questions were asked about marriage equality, for example, that's gone up over time among every group, including Latinx people, Latinos y Latinas, no? That's really distressing and sad. And I think overall, I have felt like the rates were going up because more and more people are coming out, and so it's becoming normalized more. People are able to say, "Mama, papa, abuela, abuelo, I'm gay, I'm trans, I'm bi, and lesbian," and it was becoming something that people were understanding. That is, we've always existed. It's just that there weren't always the ways to talk about it, the tools or the words to say, "I'm non-binary." The words didn't exist. So I would be interested to know more about where that is, and among what group and who did the study. I think family acceptance is so incredibly important. I spend a lot of time talking about it. Whenever I have a chance to do an interview, I try to talk about family acceptance to let people know that, for the most part, we all know 99.9% of our people I've ever met are people in our community will say to me, "I was born trans," or "I was born bi, I was born gay." No one made me. Obviously, no one made me who I am. I am who I am. Just like straight people were probably most of them feel they're born straight. They were born straight. So I try to explain the idea of being who you are, and as a parent, not taking on a lot of the baggage that people try to put on parents, that it was somehow their quote fault, and all these things that parents have to deal with. Because I try to help too for people to understand that we were all raised in a homophobic, transphobic world, all of us, and so parents it takes them a long time to sort of be joyful, not just accepting, but happy that they have a kid who is who they are and happens to be LGBT or Q. So I try to explain to the importance of that family acceptance, that if you have strength in your family, love in your family, you can take almost anything. And a lot of young LGBTQ people do have to take a lot. They have to be very strong because schools there's still so much bullying and so much homophobia and transphobia and biphobia that happens in schools. And so I try to explain that being able to come home safely and tell your dad or your mom or your grandma or your grandpa, "Hey, this happened to me at school," and have them hug you and tell you, "I'm sorry, mi amor, I love you." That's hugely important. Having your family support sets you up for success for life, not just in school, but LGBTQ kids drop out of school at higher numbers still. A lot of them don't feel safe. This 15th of October is Spirit Day, in which we call attention to the issues that are happening for LGBTQ youth. The fact that a lot of them are at home right now and can't be who they are. Some of them in situations where, they're maybe even being treated badly just for being gay or lesbian or bi or trans. So it's important to call attention to that and to help people become more accepting. Help our people in our communities talk about it, normalize it, do media, talk with friends. Be out and open to show that it is who we are, and that it's joyful to be who we are, and that to help parents be more accepting. Because that's, again, if you don't have your family, it's tough out there in the world.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and for many, we've had to come out our alone. That was, just so you can know, it was published in the Journal of Child and Family Studies, and it came out that said parents of LGBT teens are less accepting of their children than 20 years ago. An alarming study came out. So, yeah.
Yeah, how they compared it with 20 years ago, but yeah, interesting.
Miss Monica, I know that you have to leave us, so I just wanted to give you a big, big hug and tell you thank you so much for joining us for the first hour of our Women's Forum. You were spectacular. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Thank you for, GLAAD is there. You guys are monsters. You guys really take care of us. And, to be the director of the Spanish language media there at GLAAD and take out a little bit of time to be with little old us means everything. So thank you so
It
much.
means so much to me. I've enjoyed it so much. You're all wonderful. And I've really, really enjoyed talking with you all. And this will be, let's stay connected, please. And thank you. And have a wonderful Pride Week. And I will tune into a lot of other things.
Thank you. Please promote where we can go. The link that you mentioned before about voting, your voting link.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, glad.org/action. You can go on there. You can check your registration. You can send friends there so they can check their registration. It's awesome.
Thank you, beautiful. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
so
with
much.
us.
Cuídense. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Miss Caridad, we're going to continue with you, my darling. So that study is alarming. And when I heard it, I thought the same thing. I was like, coño, what the hell? I thought, it's true, like what Monica said, there are not many of us are represented out there, but there is some, or it's like my mother-in-law is like, she's old school Cuban, so it's like we're fighting. She's a Trump supporter, and she's borderline racist. But if you mention Ellen, she's like, ay, pero ella es nice. Go figure. So, what do you think about this study that came out stating that that parents are a little less welcoming than they were 20 years ago, Miss Caridad?
Yes, unmuted. As a GSA sponsor, I've seen a lot of parents or heard by way of their children tell them, I prefer you were dead than gay. You can't live in my house, throw them out. So I guess because I come in contact with those who are having a really hard time, the idea that it's gotten worse isn't necessarily represented in my reality in the school. There's always a couple of kids that are truly on the verge of being homeless or who want to commit suicide because they are completely and totally marginalized, unwanted. My only thinking that why parents would be more reactive, more negative today to a kid coming out is perhaps because we're a little bit more represented now. It's no longer quiet per se. Kids are growing in their voice, and I think they're starting to understand that even though it may not be their family, that there is a family for them out there. So that adds a little bit of courage to that. So the parents who are not going to accept are going to be even more unaccepting, because then they're coming up against the walls that are starting to fall down. Trans awareness, the idea, the non-binary, the pronoun use, it's just flipping them out. So perhaps they are more vocal in their rejection. But I don't know that I necessarily buy that it was better 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember I came out in 2006. I was married for 16 years. And I remember coming out and being absolutely terrified. A grown-ass woman with her own home and a job and a child. So I was terrified. I didn't want to tell, of all things, and you guys are going to laugh, but I didn't want to tell my hairdresser because I thought she's going to discriminate me and she's going to mess up my hair. And these were like the small things, but I didn't want her to know. And if that was me, I imagine for a kid who doesn't have agency, who doesn't have where to go or a door to lock to just shut all the negativity out. So I think that it's many different forces.
Yeah, I thought perhaps because of social media, because there's just so much information out there. Like you said, I never even thought about that point when it came to parents, that there's an overload. It's in your face more. I thought that parents were going to lose it when we had to have bathrooms that were both genders, which I didn't think was a big deal. But to older folks was like, no, and that's going to bring out pedophiles, the stupidity that ignorant,
and they don't understand distinctions. They think, oh, mom, I'm gay. Oh, what does that mean? That now you want to become a woman? And it's like, no. And then they don't have much to have the conversation. So
Yeah,
when you don't have language, what do? You strike out. And the striking out invariably lands on the backs of their children, whether or not they're okay with that. Because I also don't believe that parents that reject their kids are happy in the rejection. And that's why it's so important to forge these dialogues with the parents and being able to be like, really? So it's a thing. And the kids are the collateral damage, and it's heartbreaking. I have a daughter who's not my daughter because she was rejected, and she would come into my room every single day and cry and eat lunch with me. I mean, every single day for 2 years. That girl is my daughter now. I'm happy to say everything worked out with her mom. Her mom realized she'd much rather have a gay daughter than a dead one. And I'm so proud of that work that I did because, you know, she's a woman now. She's living her life. She's out. Her mama loves her, and everything is wonderful. And if she's watching now, she knows who she is. I'm not gonna name her, but there is hope.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for people like you that give some of us hope, when our parents don't give us that hope, you know, like that, we cling on to that. I was one of those little girls that I couldn't talk to my mom about that, but I had that one godmother I just knew that would love me no matter what, that told me I was special, that told me I was enough. If I didn't have that, then I could fastly go down that route of not wanting to be breathing anymore. Ms. Dante, what do you think about this conversation?
I think definitely this trend, I don't see it reflected in my community or in other Indigenous communities that I've talked to about these types of issues. My only guess, and it would truly be a guess, is that children from families that are already conservative, that didn't have access to articulate their identities before, because of probably just the families they were in, now have access through things like the internet to self-discovery and really have the chance to vocalize how they truly feel. That would be my only assumption, is that these kids that didn't even know these things existed before because of the types of families they were in are now able to access that. And that would be the only reason. I can't imagine why else. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that that's not prevalent in your culture right now. That's beautiful. Miss Raven, Miss June Raven, ¿qué tú piensas?
Well, one, thank you for calling me for my middle name, because nobody ever calls me my middle name.
I love your middle name. I love that middle name. It's everything.
Thank you. I always make it a point to tell people that is also my name. I have two names. But anyway, yeah, echoing what Dante said, and what everybody else said, of course, there are like factors, right? Extenuating factors and circumstances surrounding the study that I'd like to delve into deeper, because everything is circumstantial. And no study is absolute if it's not done properly, especially, right? So I think, yes, the likelihood that many things are at play here. One, the same amount of people were not coming out 20 years ago. So you have this explosion of representation, the explosion of visibility, the explosion of mass communication. You're going to have an explosion of coming out stories as well, and numbers. And of course, that discrepancy there has to account for something. There is also what I believe too, which is 20 years ago, yes, like Caridad mentioned, it was quieter. If you come out to me in the privacy of our living room, I'll contend with it. I'll battle with it. Ultimately, I may come to a conclusion, a consensus with you, an agreement with you, you know, a tolerating point or an accepting point. But now we have, you don't accept me, you're going to go to your social media and tell people, you're going to film me rejecting you. And so, yes, all of that contention probably leads to a little bit more of rejection first off, like right off the bat. There's also, we live in a different world than we did 20 years ago in terms of the perceived tumult, the chaos of it all. And when you are rearing children, that delicate stage right before you send them off, I would imagine, right, is adolescence. So you think to yourself, I've got to protect them and set them up for success in this adolescent stage as much as I can for the world that they're about to face. And the world that it looks like we're facing now did not look like the world that looked like we were facing 20 years ago. So that could be a factor. It could be that the parent is trying to supersede the media and supersede the knowledge the child thinks that they've gained on their own, and telling them, listen, the world out there is ugly, And in their actions, by rejecting them, it's probably them thinking in their own way, I'm protecting this child. If they're truly what they say they are, that's going to come no matter what. It's going to come to them like second nature. So let me protect them right now. And of course, that would be a wrong thinking. But I contend personally that I don't believe we'll ever get to that utopian place where, as a society, we all arrive upon the conclusion that LGBTQ plus people are normal and everyday occurrences and will be completely accepted. I think that the nature of being a minority group means consistently having to fight for your place in the world and consistently having to put your paws up in that sense. So I look forward to that fight. I look forward to imbuing my children with that fight. I don't know that it'll ever be truly over.
You really think it'll never be over? You think we'll be always fighting for this?
I think it may get better, but I think that people are people and we want power even amongst each other. And we're going to leverage whatever we can against each other to make sure that we distribute that power in a way that we feel is fit. And that will be wrong in a lot of senses and a lot of times, but that's what we're going to do as people. So as people who are historically disenfranchised and historically set to the margins, I say this, and it's what I've said to myself. It is our responsibility. It is incumbent upon us to trailblaze the lives we want to see for those like us in the future. It is not anybody else's responsibility to succumb to our needs. We have to demand those needs be met. And if we don't live like that, the truth is we're probably going to end up in another situation like we ended up in the last few hundred years. Niño que no chilla no mama, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I feel.
Definitely. So let's talk about the debate. Who saw the debate? Did you guys see the debate? All of you saw the debate? Okay, of course, right? It was like
as much as I could stomach.
It was like a train wreck, right? I haven't peed or pooped or eaten in 2 days since I saw that damn debate. All right. Did anybody on this panel feel represented? Did anybody on this panel feel like either candidate spoke to them? Miss Raven, empezamos contigo.
I have to say, I am an eternal optimist. I know that what I said probably doesn't sound like it reflects that, but I am an eternal optimist in the sense that everything I see as yes and a yes plus and yes but. So when I saw what I was watching in that debate, in my opinion, I was like, this is good. This is good. What I saw to me was the last remnants of that flailing, desperate attempt that archetype has at power, at holding power. And that archetype is the geriatric white man, right? The geriatric white man, the older white man, that's who we have historically placed in positions of power, particularly in the presidency of the United States. And me visualizing what I saw and witnessing what I saw last night was I was like, oh, it's fizzling. This archetype's hold on this power is fizzling. And I am proud to witness that. Obviously, the clear choice seems to me like Joe Biden for our community, for the future of decency, for the future of decorum. I mean, it just seems like the logical choice. But neither Joe Biden or Donald Trump are particularly exciting to me to lead the country. I think that it is a disservice to the citizens of this country that we have leaders in better suited positions right now to lead the country, and we did not put them in that position to earn that spot. That says a lot about our history, but at the same time, like I said, it says a lot about where we're about to go, because we're all agreeing upon that. Even, the commentators that 4 years ago would have, been licking the souls of the person who did Visibly Poorer, they were all like, that was shit. Yeah. And if that's what our country's got to look forward to, then it's absolute shit for the next 4 years.
Miss Caridad, how do you tell one of your students, one of your kids, that this is okay? That, watching the president be the biggest bully on earth, how do you explain that to your children? How do you talk to them about that? Because in this day and age, it's not even like when we were kids that we didn't watch the debate, but now this is like the most important election like ever. So even kids are, watching this with their parents. How do you talk to your kids, or how did you talk to your kids about this? What did you think?
I absolutely don't say that's it was okay. I try to shy away from my personal politics for obvious reasons. But so we broke it down in terms of rhetoric, how there was absolutely no rhetoric on behalf of the president. He was completely out of control, screaming facts. You mentioned decorum. There was no decorum. We talked about debates, and that's just not how you do things and the interchange of ideas. And I asked him straight up, I said, do you think that this is going to see you guys, your generation, to my age? Because this sort of chaos and this sort of violence at the helm of anything is bound to dismantle it. So I was mostly very appalled at the fact that he sowing that sort of chaos, aside from being his obvious default, he just can't help himself. It's also appealing to a certain segment of our society that grows more and more emboldened. So while Miss Raven saw something positive, and I have great admiration for optimists because I'm quite the opposite, and I think I suffer a lot for that. I just couldn't believe what is being represented to the country as the what to aspire to, right? So I'm thinking, how can I ever hope to affect a change in a classroom that's being forced to stand and pay allegiance to a flag that is putting this person at the front? So it's very disconcerting for me. It's very disconcerting to have to field not just their lack of knowing, because I understand they're learning, they're young, but having to wade through the forest of the propaganda and the non-facts and the just asinine conspiracy theories that are brought into the classroom in defense of something that, let's face it, 20 years ago would have been totally indefensible. I always ask this at the end of the day when I'm shutting down a Trump proponent. I ask this: would Obama have been able to get away with that? And invariably, the answer is no. And then I ask, why not? And the answer to that is the answer to all of this. Why not? Because he, as you said, he was not this geriatric white man. And, when we were doing the primaries, like Joe Biden wouldn't have been my choice. He's going to be my choice. I'm on the Joe train all the way. However, we were all, and by we, I mean Democrats, Democrats were saying, oh, but she can't win, or no, but they can't win. And we're still afraid. We're still afraid to run our best candidate. And I understand the fear now because there's a lot on the line. So, but we have yet to truly harness the confidence that the GOP shows in running solely unappetizing, unappealing candidates with complete faith. Why can't we do that? Why can't we just the power of our collective bring the right person to the prominent space and just agree to disagree? We're not always going to agree. If the four of us wanted to throw a party, somebody here would end up having to compromise. That's just the way that it goes, even if we're like-minded. But there are schisms within our own representative body that we need to get beyond. We need to stop the petty infighting and the petty bullshit. And he's not progressive enough. She's too progressive. He's moderate, but my God, our soul, the soul of our country, of our society, of our globe depends on us just finding some sort of common ground.
It's scary times. I'm super curious to hear what Dante has to say. Your perspective, illuminate me.
Given that I'm currently here in an official state representing my tribe, I can't give personal leanings, but I will say that I'm very glad everyone's eyes were turned to this debate. I think I can say that. For many of the reasons that were mentioned before, people need to be very critical. People need to have their eyes open to what's happening within our leadership. And I'll just say that I'm very, very, very glad and proud of my generation for really taking that on and being, so passionate about registering to vote You know, I'm in an independent youth council, Future Indigenous Leaders of South Florida, and it's just, I'm one of the older people there, and I'm only 23. So just to see like 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds so passionate about getting people eligible to vote registered is something
I do
I'm so
believe that
proud
your
of.
generation will change the world, though. Just so you know, Miss Dante. I know it's like just after Parkland and everything, what that age group did was just phenomenal, and it's still doing to this day. I for one am worried. I'm scared. I went through a roller coaster ride watching that debate, and kind of like what Caridad said, I watched it because I wanted to have the information to talk to you ladies about, but I made it maybe 40 minutes. I couldn't. Like, it was awful. I was on a roller coaster ride. I was frustrated. I was mad. I was sad. I was freaking scared. And then I even laughed at times. You know, that really like nervous laugh, right? Like it was a mess. It was a mess, I'm afraid that some women or some Latinos or some indigenous people were watching this and said, we're not represented. This is a joke. I'm not even going to waste my time in voting. I'm afraid that message might have been relayed. I'm trying to be optimistic, like you're saying, Raven, and I'm also understanding what Caridad is saying. It's just like, I want that to have been like the way that it jarred people and said, wait a minute, no, this guy is a lunatic. I can't vote for him. I know who my vote is for, but I'm worried about the other side of that coin, of the people that were like, this guy doesn't give a crap about us. This guy knows less about it. They're too busy fighting with each other. I'm not going to vote at all. And I hope that I'm wrong. I really do. Miss Raven.
There is, I just wanted to point out at this point, I don't think there should be a need. There is no need for more debates. That's my opinion. We don't have to be subjected to that as a nation anymore. I don't think even the moderators want to be subjected to that anymore. I don't think we need any more debates. We know who those two individuals are. We know what it will look like when those two individuals convene in a debate forum. We know already. We're just going to subject ourselves to the same replay of last night 3 times over or 2 times over. I don't feel we need any more debates. We as a nation know what is at stake. We know that we are not voting for 2 people. We are voting for 2 warring ideologies right now. Okay? There's no more undecided voters out there. I've come to that conclusion. There aren't. If you are an undecided voter at this point, I don't know how that's even possible, right? Mm-hmm. So we already know what we're doing, right? And I would say this, you are not represented up there. There was not a word significantly said about communities like ours, the LGBTQ communities, minority communities, women. There wasn't really utterances of many of those kinds of policies. And that should be eye-opening to you, but it should not discourage you, because underneath those positions that those men are in are a web of people who look like you and I, ardently at work right now, improving the country. You can be one of those individuals. I say again to trans and GNC and gender nonconforming and all of my LGBTQ plus folks out there who are young right now and choosing careers. You want a career? Choose a career that's going to put you in the position of actually altering things at a tangential level, at a physical level, right? Law, public service, public administration. That's where we have to be setting our sights collectively as a group. And I know that each of us has individual pursuits and individual desires, but I have to think a little bit militaristically about this and say that we need to be in the rooms where the decisions are made. We need to be in the rooms where litigation is created and legislature is created. We have to be in those rooms. It is not enough for us to be entertainers. It is not enough to be outside and offering insight from the outside. We have to be in the inner workings. And so that's what I'd say to you. I was not discouraged watching those men. What I thought watching those men was, this is my chance. This is my chance. Now the nation, we understand now what's at stake, right? We coasted for a long time, a lot of us. And I will say this too, individual responsibility is something I bring up again, because it's a shared responsibility along with an individual one. It is our responsibility as citizens and stewards of this country and stewards of the Constitution that created this country, as imperfect as it truly is. It is our responsibility to go shaping that into a more perfect union, right? And never has the stakes of that responsibility been so evident than right now. We've coasted a lot, and that's partially on us too. Our coasting and our apathy have kind of led to this point. So stop being apathetic. Do not allow yourself to be apathetic.
You're absolutely right. And piggybacking on what you're saying, Miss June, what girls, ladies, women, divas, empowered women, what can we do better? What can we do better? What can we do better collectively or just as one single person to make sure that our voices are counted, make sure that we're out there, make sure that we are living up to we're using our place and our voice as needed. What can we do? Miss Dante, we'll start with you, honey.
I would say to truly invest everything you have in the communities you want to see raised. For a lot of Indigenous people, voting is something that isn't in their tradition. A lot of people feel very adamantly that they'd rather invest their time in community-led organizations because in our tradition, a lot of the ways that we've been able to maintain our sovereignty is by not playing those civil duties. So it really is a split down the middle for a lot of Indian country, whether they believe in the system of voting or not. So I'm not one to tell Indigenous people or go into an Indigenous space and say, listen, you guys have to vote. That's your only way out of this. When for 200 years, we've seen that the way to maintain sovereignty is just so in whatever way you believe is right to invest in your people. So that would be truly my advice is to give it your all, listen to your people, care about your people, prioritize, the things that are valuable to you and just make sure that you're not committing violences on the way.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miss Dante. Miss Caridad, what do you think?
Dante's last sentence, make sure you don't commit violences along the way. And I admit I have lost my patience with people who do not see things the way that I see them. And I also realize that raging or fighting them will not change their hearts. So I think I need to go back. When I first came out, and I referenced this, when I first came out, a lot of people would ask me, "Ay, pero qué pasó?" And pero how did you know? And what did you know? And what did two girls do together anyway? These completely like outrageous. My son, is he a real boy? No, Geppetto, he's a wooden boy. It was just like these outrageous personal questions that you would never ask. I would never go up to a straight cis couple and be like, so did you do in vitro? Were you on top? But I decided that I would endure their stupid questions under the guise of educating, right? Of showing them that it is not just one story. It is just not one face. It is just not one experience. So I'm going to take your stupid question and I'm going to answer you nicely. And I found invariably the reaction that I got was surprising. And even themselves, they kind of question themselves. It'd be like a shift. But I don't have that same tolerance now because I am afraid. And just even to say that, I could cry. So when someone is afraid, they lash out. So I need to stop lashing out and I need to start trying to connect again. Because if we don't reach the people, it doesn't matter who's at the top. Because the top is just reflecting us. So we have to try and continue to educate, even though that fight is exhausting and it is terrifying and it is more than we ever bargained for. I think that that's what I have to do in order to continue to survive and thrive in this society today.
Yeah, I think the time for silence is way past. For many years, I mean, we all know what that's like. It's, oh, you don't like boys? Were you raped? Oh, were you violated? No, I just didn't like boys, and it's one of those things where it's like you want to just stay quiet because you want to just, okay, let me not ruffle any feathers. But a part of you wants to go, what the hell? Like, read a book, get educated. And the other part of you is like, okay, woofa, let me take a breath, let me help educate this person and let me not lash out, but there's a million kinds of fear, and LGBTQIA feel all of them, all of them, and we still do the best we can, Anyway, you ladies are fantastic. Let me do some fun questions. Wow, we've been okay. Let's shake it out because you got me all tense now. You got me thinking, but thinking wonderful things. You know, we've elevated, our vibrations are out there. This is how you make change. You know, so all right, what did you use as a release during quarantine? You know, what did you do as a release when you needed to not look at social media, not look at TV, not deal with the fact that you were enclosed in this house and you couldn't go anywhere? What did you do as a release? Like, I would go outside, put on reggaeton super loud, and I'm a really bad singer, and sing really loud. My neighbors now hate me, but it was that or violence. So it worked for me. What did you guys do as a release during those really tense times when we really didn't know a lot about Corona, what was going on, but we were locked in our homes trying to just deal with TV and social media and everything like that? We'll start with you, June.
Again, I'm a little strange. I'm probably not the best person to ask about. I'm not the best person to ask about this because I think I have like a little bit of a military mind, honestly. When I was younger and my siblings cast me aside or my cousins cast me aside and I was ostracized for who I was, my response was to sit inside of the room that housed the encyclopedia collection in my grandmother's home. And I read every single book from cover to cover. And my family knew me as the encyclopedia. And that was my nickname, la enciclopedia. And that's the same survival tactic that I applied during this. I poured through information. It's one of the reasons why I've been so passionate and why I am such a believer in my own project. And I know that everybody should be, but I really am, because I feel like in the way of disseminating information, analyzing it and synthesizing it, I do a pretty good job of it. And so that I know is what my service to the world will probably be. And so I consume information. I educate myself. And I hope
they didn't call you encyclopedia anymore. I hope they called you Google or something more updated.
Something more updated, right? No, they don't. They don't. They just call me crazy now. But that's what I did. I poured over information. The more information you have, the better. That's, in my opinion, for me, information is weaponry. Information is your artillery. So that's what I did. And in terms of what can we do going forward, educate yourselves. I say it all the time. I accompany a lot of my Facebook posts with the simple word, edúquense. Eduquense. I would scream that word to my family when I was a child over and over and over. If my family were going off on a tangent, yelling at each other over politics or about racist inclinations or notions, I would scream in the middle of the room, no matter where we were, Eduquense! Eduquense! And that's what I say to everybody. You don't know everything. Eduquense. You are a member of a nation, whether that's the First Nations, whether that's America. You are a member of a nation, and you have a responsibility to that nation as a civilian of that nation. You have civic duties, okay? The reason why we're largely in this mess is because we haven't gone about our personal responsibilities of fulfilling and understanding our civic duties properly, okay? And that is a failing on behalf of the government, on the education system. It's a failing on so many levels. But we have the internet now. Mm-hmm. The power is yours if you want it. America is an enormous machine that has wrought so much destruction, death, and imperialism and building. But it's a machine that we can take over. It's a machine you can get at the helm of if you try hard enough. I kind of believe that. I know there are roadblocks in the way, but get to some deck of machinery in that machine. Get to some operating deck of it. That's my goal. That's my goal.
Educate yourself. That when BLM came to pass, I was surprised by what little we were taught in school. What the education system, I went to public school in New Jersey, and a lot of the things that we were taught historically weren't even facts. And I was blown away by how little I knew. And I firmly believe in staying teachable. I don't know S. Every day I try to learn something new, no matter what it is. Staying teachable is so important. Like you said, knowledge is power, Raven. Knowledge is power, especially as Latina brown indigenous women. Miss Dante, what did you do to release during quarantine time? Enderezarte la corona. What did you do?
I think one of the day-to-day things is my pets. I'm so obsessed with them. I'm just invested into their little social dynamics. That's just what I've been like really dealing with. It's also just refreshing to be like, well, this is all just a bonus to them because now I'm just home with them all the time instead of traveling here and there. So trying to see things through their perspective. But definitely I think one of the most grounding things for me is just connecting to my culture in any way. I know that sounds like I don't want it to be like, oh, every Native American, their culture, but it really, really is. It's such a healing thing just to reread and relearn the stories of our elders. Or even I'm a student in our language, so I have a dictionary that's all marked up and tons of recordings on my iPhone of saying the words right, calling my grandma, recording it again. So really just reconnecting to my culture and grounding myself with my pets in the little world I have here right now has been really, really refreshing.
Oh, our pets saved our lives. And everybody else have pets? Do you have pets, Raven? Okay, yeah, of course we have pets. We're women. We love pets. I mean, there's one of my favorite memes was this guy who was about to take the dog out, and the dog's like, "Look, mom took me out, my father took me out, the kid took me out. I don't want to go out anymore." And the other one is like the dog is like at the top of the shelf, like over the fridge, like, I'm done with walks for today, guys. So I think if there was looking at things positively, if anybody got greatness out of this pandemic, were our pets for sure. So, okay, so last fun question for you guys, and then we're almost going to be over. We're almost going to be done with today's. I can't believe that we've been talking for over an hour and a half. Wow, this is amazing. All right. What did you find out about yourself inside when we couldn't go outside? What did you find out about yourself inside when you couldn't go outside? Miss Caridad, vamos a empezar contigo.
I found out that I'm really happy being home. I've been on lockdown with the dog, my wife, my son, and I just enjoy silence. I enjoyed not having to run. Even though I was really busy, I found that the transit, the traffic, the craziness, that I needed that. I needed a little bit of silence and a little bit of quiet. And I also found out that succulents that you grow, they grow from nothing. And they're all over my house now because I'm totally gardening all the time. And I make a mean pasta carbonara. So when we can, you guys are coming over and I'm making pasta carbonara. Patuto pasta.
I'm in. I'm totally in. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Miss Raven, what did you find out?
What did I find out about myself? Okay. Don't
tell me that you're weird, because you're not. You really are not.
I think I am a little weird. I really contend that I am much stranger than people give me credit for. Well, because that's besides the point. But
That's another forum.
That is another forum. What did I find out? I found out that I'm much more of a true extrovert than I thought. Okay, because my entire developed life, like when you think about it, since I was maybe 8 or 9, I was on a stage. So, whether it was at elementary school, middle school, high school, external events, whatever it was, extracurricular, I was always on a stage in some respect. And now this is the first time in my life that I do not have that second world that I'm inhabiting. And I now understand exactly how much of it I am and how much of that energy exchange I live off of and I thrive off of. I'm also very much into boys, and now, because of my sort of arrested development, is when I was like taking off in terms of like dating relations and stuff. And yeah, I found out that I'm a boy's girl in that sense. Like, I need someone to date, not constantly, not fixed, but I need men to see for dates. Like, otherwise I feel starved. It's crazy. I feel a little bit crazy because my roommates happen to be 2 people who are a couple. So I see them all the time around the house, and I'm like, yeah, get out of my face. So yeah, I've learned that about myself. I've often thought that I would follow in the footsteps of like my great aunt and my great uncle, who were both performers, and they were both like lifelong bachelors and bachelorettes. My uncle more because he was literally gay and nobody ever knew it, and he was quite well known, so that was like a thing. But I thought that's who I'm going to be. I'm going to be Dolly and I'm going to be Caesar. And now I'm like, I don't know if I can be that, June. You need people. Like, you need a man. And I never thought I would say that, but apparently I'm that girl.
And that's okay. That's okay.
And that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah, it's for extroverts like myself, this time was definitely a time of reflection. Like I was so used to being around people. I'm always the one that puts people together. Let's have a dinner party. Let's go to Lincoln Road. Vamos allá, vamos allá. You know, something that I think that young youth the coming out should know early on, that your family's not always blood. You know, a lot of us make our own family, and my friends are my family, you know. So not being able to be around them was such a weird change, you know. And now it's been months. I mean, how many months? March, April, May, June, July, August. 7 months that we've been in this trap, you know. And I'm almost fearful to say that I'm getting used to it now, you know. Like I'm getting used to it. Miss Dante, you tell me, what did you find out about your inside? Something new about inside because you couldn't go outside.
I think that the main thing that's really been driven home to me staying inside is that, you know, representation is too high of a cost for my personal privacy. You know, before the pandemic, I was closeted about my gender being non-binary. I was closeted about being two-spirit. And then when I was just thinking about the changes that I wanted to be made, I was like, no, representation needs to happen. I need to come out with these things. You know, it's something I need to see in my community. When I started my project, I was terrified if there would be any backlash, if my committee wouldn't support me. You know, there's all these things that go through your mind when you're not sure. So I think it's just that, like, I've really learned that it's worth it to take the leap, to sacrifice your own privacy if it means representing, especially since from my cultural background as Seminoles, we're really, really, really private, even within our own tribe and our own clans. So it's just been, you know, a sacrifice that's really been worth it. And it's something that I would have never thought to be so vocal about before, just because of my cultural background. So yeah, that's something that's I've really, really learned from being inside.
You know, we don't know how powerful our voices are, ladies. You know, like again, if just one person sees themselves in any of 4 of us or 5 with Monica, then this whole thing was worth it. You know, being in the closet, being closeted, being quiet, there's no time for it now at all. So it has been such an amazing blessing to be with you 3. And I wanted to say a shout out to Miss Josie Blanco, that she's a neuropsychologist at Neurofeedback Institute, that she was going to be with us today and could not. So we want to say hello to Josie. Thank you. We'll definitely catch you on the next time. So before we say goodbye, can each of you, any last words and where we can find you in IG or something that you're promoting these days where we can follow you and keep in touch? We'll start with you, Ms. June. You're muted.
Oh gosh.
You're okay now.
Okay. First, thank you so much. And this was a ride and I loved it. And it was everything I imagined and more. Thank you for the conversation. So like I said, I just recently launched my own project called The Transcript. I have uploaded 4 videos on YouTube. I've already interviewed people from an infectious disease specialist about COVID-19 to a BLM transgender protester who was mistreated at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Facility, and it received national and international headlines and news. And I also just recently finished an interview with Rodney Jacobs Jr., who's the assistant director of the civilian oversight panel, the civilian investigative panel for the city of Miami in terms of policing and police reform. So I'm pretty proud of the people that I've been able to bring on just in a month's time, a little over a month's time. My project and my series is called The Transcript. It's a channel on YouTube. You can follow it on YouTube. You can look for it on Instagram at @TheTranscript_. And follow me on Instagram at JuneOfArc23. JuneOfArc23, and just, I guess, keep up with me.
Thank you, beautiful. Miss Dante, you're up.
I want to say thank you, everybody, for having me and for listening. You guys can find my project Two Spirit Tuesdays on my Instagram page. It's Miss FL Seminole, Dante BB. We're going through different phases. We started our project with explaining to people what Two Spirit was. Right now, we're in the process of talking about different processes of colonial healing and decolonial healing from the traumas of colonialization. So please join us there. We have lots of contributors every week. We're trying to really make it a platform for different Two-Spirit perspectives. So please join me, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Dante. And we're also blessed that Ms. Dante is receiving our Trailblazer Award. And I am so honored that I get to present her with the award on October 14th at our drive-in, our closing ceremonies. And so deserved, and we're really looking forward to that. Make sure that you get your tickets. And Miss Caridad, please tell me about this book. Please tell me about this book and where I can get it.
So on October 6th, Grabbed, Poets and Writers on Sexual Assault, Empowerment, and Healing comes out. We're really excited about it. We have an afterword by Anita Hill. Richard Blanco, our inaugural poet, is one of the editors, along with some very good friends of mine, Nikki Mustaki and Alyssa Albo. The book is fantastic. It is giving a voice to the voiceless. You can find it anywhere that you sell books. You can follow me on IG at Caridad Moro, or you can find me on Facebook under Caridad Moro-Gronlier. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for this wonderful panel, these empowering and just badass women. I am proud to be among you, and I wish you every blessing and all the best.
You're beautiful, Miss Caridad. Thank you, and thank you for saying yes. So I want to remind you guys that our spoken word Jazz and Eats is also going to be Thursday, October 8th. We've got Richard Blanco, that if you guys remember, he was the inaugural poet for the one, the only Obama. So it's going to be a fabulous event, October 8th at 8 p.m. from the comfort of your own home. You'll be able to watch that. And we've also got an opportunity that you can order dinner for two, make it a date night. Or can you get dinner for two for $40? So all the information on that is at celebrateorgullo.com. So I want to thank these incredible ladies, Monica Trasandes from Glad that had to leave, June Raven Romero, I freaking love you. Durante Dante, I can't wait to give you your award on the 14th. You are a phenomenal, phenomenal young woman. You really are. Miss Caridad, I can't say any more wonderful things about you. The fact that I just found out you were going to be a part of this panel yesterday, and I'm in freaking love with you already. It's ridiculous. Thank you. Don't forget that this was our kickoff for Celebrate Orgullo 2020. 2 semanas llenas de evento para todos. Tomorrow night, we have our Night of 1,000-ish Stars, where I'll be one of the hosts with Buckley and the beautiful Miss Samantha. And we have talent from all over the world. Y empezamos a las 7 de la noche, 7 p.m. en vivo on our YouTube channel as well. So on behalf of these incredible women, Mr. Herb Sosa and the rest of the crew behind the scenes, buenas noches a todos. Yo soy Fay Tatiana, and it's been honestly a pleasure and an honor to be with you this evening. Good night. Take care of each other, and we are in this together. Be safe.